Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Faheem, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Faheem.
Welcome to the Lightning Strike. And this particular day today, Sunday, very sorry to see what's happening in America. What we are witnessing right now is not an isolated moment, folks. It is not about Minneapolis alone. It is about power, how it is used, how it is justified, and how easily it can be turned against the people it claims to protect. When President Trump talks about declaring an emergency in Minneapolis, when he floats invoking the Insurrection Act, when he frames protest, dissent, and community resistance as threats to national security, that is not leadership, that is conditioning. Conditioning the people to accept extraordinary power as normal, conditioning us to see our neighbors as enemies, conditioning democracy itself to bend under the weight of fear. Let's be clear. The Insurrection Act is not some abstract legal footnote. It is one of the most extreme powers available to a president, the authority to deploy the military against civilians on American soil. Historically, it was used sparingly, often in moments of grave crisis, and usually with the consent of the states. What makes today different is not just the threat, but the casualness of it. An emergency declared not because the state has collapsed, but because the local leaders refuse to comply. Because communities push back. Because people protest federal actions that affect their lives. That should trouble every American, regardless of party. This moment, folks, sits at the intersection of several deep fractures in our society. Federal power versus local authority, security versus civil liberties, order versus justice. And underlying it all is distrust. Distrust in institutions, distrust in elections, distrust in each other.
No C's.
About 8:15. But coming back to what I was saying, Trump's rhetoric feeds that distrust now. It thrives on polarization. One side is told federal force is necessary to restore law and order. The other hears the unmistakable echo of authoritarianism, of a government willing to bypass democratic norms when challenged. And Minneapolis matters here. This is a city which is already marked by trauma, by protest, by national attention. When the federal government responds not with dialogue or restraint, but with threats of military intervention, it escalates, not resolves conflict. We have seen this playbook before, right? Portland, Washington, D.C., federal agents without accountability, blurred lines between law enforcement and political theater. Each time, the justification is public safety. Each time, the cost is public trust. And here is the deeper danger. Once emergency powers become routine, democracy becomes conditional. Rights become negotiable. Dissent becomes suspect. This is not just about immigration enforcement anymore. It's not about protests. It's about whether the United States remains a country governed by consent or by coercion. Because when executive power expands without restraint, it rarely contracts on its own. We have seen this playbook before. History teaches us this plainly. Democracies do not disappear overnight. They erode incrementally under the banner of necessity. With the applause of those who believe it will never be used against them, right? So the question this morning is not whether Minneapolis needs calm. Every community does. The real question is, Who defines the emergency? Who benefits from it? And who pays the price? At the lightning strike here, we don't accept fear as policy. We don't confuse authority with legitimacy, and we don't surrender democracy in exchange for the illusion of order. Stay alert, stay engaged, because moments like this are how the future gets decided. Quietly, legally, and all at once. This is the lightning strike. I'm your host, Mohammed Faheem. We come live every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. We'll take a quick break and come back on the other side of the break with our panel for today. We've got quite a few candidates lined up, and we've got our panel in place with Dr. Sheila White, Reed Bible, Mike Patino, Ray Hanania. We expect Congresswoman Marie Newman to join us also shortly.